What is up, YouTube? This is your host, Ranee B, here to spill that homicidal tea. And we are brewing up the most insane blends of tea to spill around these parts that I've done yet. Today's blend, state mandated, think 1950s mental facility, prison level, like think Broadmoor level insane blend tea. This case, dude, this is the worst one I've covered yet. Let me recognize you OGs around here, like Pez93. I love Pez candy, but I love you too, Pez93. And then Penny Balfour. We've been having some good talks in the comments. And welcome the new folk for tuning in as well. I love the involvement with you guys. And please like and comment if you find anything awesome. And even if you don't, I mean, I love it all. And one more thing, please. If you have Twitter or Instagram, can you please retweet? There's my Twitter handle, whatever they call it. I'm not the greatest at this whole social media thing. It's weird because, like, I was raised to don't talk about yourself too much. Don't put yourself out there. Like, don't me. Well, that's what social media is. And it's awkward for me. So help me out, y'all. If you could retweet some of this stuff, it'd be awesome to get that word out there. And y'all forget, I'm old. This tech stuff, it's over my head.
Now, don't you do a lot of the IT work at your job?
They don't know that. Ugh. Anyway, now that the typical spiel is out of the way, let's get into the solved but twisted homicide case of Ryan Rice. I have a strange personal connection to this case as my husband was in the jury selection pool for this case. It was his first jury to ever be a part of. He is not a fan of true crime. He thinks that my obsession with all things murder is borderline psychotic. So that being said, he has no idea how jury selection works and he didn't know what to expect. They called everyone in the courtroom and they announced that jury selection would be resulting in listening and rendering a verdict for a capital murder case. Now in Texas, that usually means
electric chair.
Yeah, my favorite is the death penalty. Okay, now, he is so naive to the jury selection process. He had no idea that he was like 10 feet away from the defendant. I would have been dying. I would have been like, oh my God. Anyway, he remembers being questioned by the defensive team's lawyer that was selecting the jurors. Juror number whatever. Why would a defendant not take the stand in his own defense? Well, my husband said because the defendant is guilty. Now, he said this because he thought correctly that it would get him dismissed. See, there's two things here, though. It's too soon to go into an ADHD moment, so, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the story yet. But real quick, one, if you're here, you're a true crime weirdo like us, all of us. We know that this defendant should never take the stand in his or her own defense. It's rare that it's ever a good idea. And then two, do you have any idea what I would have given to be on that jury? Oh, that would have been cool. But anyway, I would have just been like, fire up Sparky. I mean, parking ticket, death penalty. Expired insurance, death penalty. No seatbelt, death penalty. You know I love that shit. But anyway, analytics are going to show that everybody's going to click off right here. But whatever. Thank you for the view. See you later. Well, now that that's out of the way again, this is my second intro. Anyway, he told me the story a long time ago. It was a little cocoon in my brain, and it lived there for years and years and years. And I never knew what happened to this guy. I didn't even know the details of the case. I mean, it was hard locating this case. I'm willing to bet that I'm the only one on YouTube covering this case, but I don't know yet. But I think so. And I'll put text below me celebrating how correct I am, or I can link to someone else's covering of it because, yeah, well, I don't think there is, but who knows. Anyway, the few scraps of information that I remembered from my husband was a Hispanic man accused of murdering a female in Tarrant County. Are you serious? It took me about 2.5 months of digging. I finally found it, and in the meantime found another really disturbing case that I'm going to do next.
I can't believe this story you're telling me. It's macabre.
Anyway, oh my God. When I got to the details, I was like, okay, I'm going to need therapy. Anyway, so now you guys are going to need therapy. Here we go.
Joke's on you, I'm into that shit.
A young Fort Worth, Texas woman by the name of Christiana Taylor had a conversation via text message with her brother Joshua Gonzalez on December 6, 2013. He was complaining about his ex-wife Sarah and his girlfriend Jennifer Sullivan Cooley and mentioned that the last bitch that screwed him over was at Rockwood Park, frozen solid right now. She had, 545 rounds in him. Just this mess. I mean, Christiana Taylor thought Josh was just talking smack as usual. But he didn't stop. He kept texting her and he said, I'm sorry, I just don't plan on being around here much longer. Trying to move to Dallas. Just want to be left alone, away from everyone and everything. Sorry. Well, Christiana, she knew better than to respond because, I mean, he just had this sense of grandeur. He wanted everybody to think that he was something that he wasn't, that he was some sort of thug life and just some gangster. Anyway, he played up that part stupidly, but he ended up sounding silly to her. So she just, put it out of her mind, whatever. Well, a week later, he called Christiana at work and said, hey, what you doing? She's like, dude, I'm busy. What do you want? He goes, well, you don't want to end up like Ryan Rice. And she was like, what are you talking about? Who's Ryan? What's going on here? Well, he went on with the story saying about how him and his girlfriend, Jennifer Sullivan Cooley, had done something to Ryan Rice. Now, during the previous week's ice storm, Jennifer's grandmother had seen Ryan Rice living in a tent outside in the neighbor's backyard. Jennifer's grandmother said, it is too cold. Come inside, sleep on the couch. Well, in the meantime, Josh had, well, you know what? First, I'm going to go off on a tangent. I looked up the weather on this day, and it was friggin' cold. And I was actually living in Tarrant County. That's the weird part. It's north of Fort Worth, just at the time was where I was living. I remember being sent home from this storm. I remember this storm specifically. And I lived in north of Fort Worth, and I worked in downtown Fort Worth, and I had to drive up I-35W to get to my house. Normally it took like 20 minutes. It took me hours to get home. That's how bad this was. So I can't imagine being outside in a tent. So no wonder Jennifer's mother was like, come on in.
That's the coolest fucking story I've ever heard in my entire life. That's insane. Can I hear it again?
Anyway, back to what Josh was telling his sister. Okay. Well, on December 5th, 2013, Josh drove from Grand Prairie to Fort Worth he stopped off at Angel Marquez's house to get a 1/4 ounce of meth. And then he went to Jennifer's to drop some of the meth off. Well, Jennifer went to her bedroom to get the money from a purse and pay Josh, and boom, no money. She also noticed pain pills gone. When Jennifer asked her kids about it and if they took the money or the drugs, mom of the year. Anyway, the kids said, Ryan asked us about the prescription pills, so we gave them to her. Uh-oh, that's not good. Jennifer was furious, and she started screaming at Ryan about the missing money and the pills. And I mean, Ryan denied taking anything, and so Jennifer said, shake out your bra. Well, when she did, money, pills fell out everywhere. That's when Jennifer started beating the living crap out of her. Josh heard this from the other room. He actually heard the whole thing, and so he came in and held Ryan down while they removed her pants. Supposedly, they found a baggie of meth hanging out of her nether regions. So they tied her up, loaded her stuff into Jennifer's Ford Expedition so that Josh could drop her and her crap off somewhere to avoid Jennifer beating the crap out of her, because Josh was afraid she was going to kill her. But chicks, jealous. Jennifer did not want Josh to be alone with Ryan in the car. So they all got in the car together. So while Josh was driving around, Ryan and Jennifer, they were screaming at each other, and it prompted Gonzalez to pull over and violently restrain Ryan, taped her mouth shut with some electrical tape that he found in the back of Jennifer's hatch in the Expedition. Jennifer Cooley started screaming at Josh, pick up my friend Shauna. Shauna, I need to get Shauna here. Shauna will get this, they were going to just kind of gang up and beat the living shit out of her. Who knows? So they went and picked up Jennifer's friend Shauna, then continued driving around for a little bit longer, and then he kind of trailed off at this point, but his story ended up with, Ryan was dead in the park, so we went home. Okay, Christiana, she was shocked and confused by this information that Gonzalez had relayed to her, but again, he's, you never know. He uses drugs. She knew that. Who knows what he's saying? Well, she saw an article in Star Telegram, which is the Tarrant County newspaper, like the Dallas Morning News, but Fort Worth. It stated Ryan's name. So she called Fort Worth Police Department sometime around December 23rd, 2013 to confirm the information that she had received from Gonzalez matched the article she had read, because she had a sinking feeling that the two stories, they were part of the same situation. A detective came out to her work and photographed the text message that she had received from Gonzalez. And wait, you know what? Let's go back a few days. On December 15th, 2013, see, that was all December 23rd. On December 15th, Sergeant William Payne of the Fort Worth Police Department received a call about a dead body that had been discovered at Rockwood Park. When Sergeant Payne arrived on the scene, it appeared that the body had been there for a little while, and the victim was an unknown female, and she had been shot several times. The medical examiner's office, they identified the body and informed Sergeant Payne that the victim's name was Ryan Major Rice. Sergeant Payne began checking all through their databases to find out if she had any points of contact or family so they could be notified, which led him to a known associate and a friend of Ryan's that he could bring in an interview, which he did on December 18th, 2013. This woman's name? Jennifer Sullivan Cooley. Sound familiar? Well, let's fast forward back to December 23rd, where Christiana was talking to the police. Based on those photos and the text messages from Josh Gonzalez's sister, Sergeant Payne had enough evidence to bring Gonzalez in for questioning. He also instructed officers in the fugitive unit to impound Gonzalez's car as well. Now, that same day, Sergeant Payne asked Jennifer to come back down to his office to conduct a second interview while officers were dispatched to search her home. But she terminated this interview as soon as they began questioning her more direct manner about Ryan's death. The detectives, they decided to let her cool off a few days. So they had brought her in for a third interview with much less of an accusatory tone from the officers. Well, it worked. Somehow they got her to consent to a second search of her home. And during this second, much more thorough search, they located 2 rolls of electrical tape, broken pieces of presumably Ryan's cell phone, and a Lone Star debit card with Ryan's name on it. That's a friggin' food stamp card. Now, I ain't getting mad at people. I've been on assistance before. But really, people are out there stealing food stamps? I mean, how broke do you have to be?
Help me, I'm poor.
Meanwhile, the fugitive task force picked up Joshua from work and brought him in. When they impounded his car, they found meth pipes and baggies and residue and stuff. It looked like meth. When they asked him about it, Josh was very open about his drug use, saying that he uses every single day. And when they moved the line of questioning to the shooting death of Ryan Rice, Gonzalez originally told Sergeant Payne that he was by himself with Ryan at the park, but then later admitted that Jennifer was with him at the time of Ryan's death. Gonzalez said that Ryan was walking away from the vehicle as he was getting all of her stuff and the rest of her things out, and he heard a click that sounded like a switchblade. Well, when he turned around, he saw Ryan coming toward him with a knife, so he reached around his back, pulled out his firearm, and just blindly started firing at Ryan. I mean, you'll understand more about why this explanation is so stupid later on.
You are made of stupid.
Arrest warrants, they were issued for Jennifer and Joshua for the kidnapping and murder of Ryan Rice. At the trial, Sergeant Payne testified that he didn't believe Gonzalez's version of the events in the interview, but he did believe that Gonzalez was being truthful when he said that he shot Ryan to his sister. Sergeant Payne believed that Josh had shot Ryan and testified that he found no evidence to indicate Jennifer or Shauna were involved whatsoever. That girl they picked up as well. They were not the shooters. Jennifer did beat the crap out of Ryan, but Shauna was just really there. So Gonzalez, who did take the stand actually in his own defense, his defensive team asked him about his drug use, and Josh stated that he smoked approximately 1.5 grams every day, and that whenever he did, he was normal. He just focused more. But if he didn't have it, he said that, I mean, it's no big deal. I mean, if I didn't get high, I just can't stay awake very well. I just wouldn't be as productive. I would have the shakes, nod off, not be able to focus, That was it. No other real changes in his personality. I mean, he was just really the same, really high or not. That meth helped him stay awake, stay focused. His own form of prescription Adderall, I guess. Well, however, Gonzalez testified about the events that transpired that night right before Ryan's death, and his story changed dramatically from what he told Sergeant Payne in December. Josh stated that while he drove around trying to figure out what they could do with Ryan, Jennifer hit Ryan with an ammunition can or a toolbox or something from the vehicle. At this point, Josh believed that Jennifer's going to beat her to death. So he decided to take the next turn, which was Rockwood Park. Gonzalez stopped at the bleachers by the baseball fields and pulled Ryan out of the back of the vehicle, and he testified the gun was in the center console, that he did not have the gun on him whatsoever. Josh said that he was reaching in the car to grab Ryan's crap and that Jennifer suddenly burst out of the vehicle with a gun and he heard bang, bang, bang. And that's when he saw Ryan on the ground. It's a very sensational imagination you have there. Anyway.
Can't even speak.
Then they drove straight to Jennifer's house, where they had stayed for 4 days about smoking dope. Yay. And talking about what had happened at the park. They figured that it would be easier if he took the blame, and so that he had shot Ryan in self-defense because he wanted Jennifer and Shauna to stay out of jail so they could parent their children, because, you know, they're great parents. That is so sweet.
You are so sweet. He's special. He's my bitch.
This is the part of the trial that may not be suitable for some of you guys. Just click here to this time, place, and that way you don't have to hear the details, especially if you were close to Ryan or her family. These details, they're bad, and no one potentially close to them or this case needs to hear these details. Again, I'm sure you already know, and just skip ahead. The medical examiner stated that Ryan's body had black electrical tape around her neck, a number of gunshot wounds, bruises, and fractured teeth. They then described the gunshot wounds on Ryan's body. One bullet in the back of her head, one second bullet in the left side of her chest, a third one in her left breast, fourth one in her left region of her abdomen, a fifth one in her, well, it just grazed her inner thigh, and a sixth bullet wound on her left leg, and a seventh bullet wound that had entered her vaginal canal, and it was lodged in the back of her abdomen. Whoever did this to her, they shot her in, I can't even finish that sentence. I can't, what the actual fuck? I mean, seriously. Anyway. When challenged that there was no possible way for the shots to go off in rapid succession due to the different trajectories, Gonzalez testified that, yeah, I was high when I heard the shots. Okay. Yeah, that works. Prosecutors also intercepted a few letters that Josh thought would make it to Jennifer from jail. They stated things like, we'll both get time served and both y'all will stay out and be out in no time. We'll stick to our story. Tell them that Ryan pulled a knife after we let her out of the truck and that you were still in the front seat. I told them, by the way, I was out of my mind tripping on acid and shit. So it should just be dropped to wrongful disposal of a body and maybe failure to report a crime for you. Don't flip out and flip the script. We're good. We just have to watch the law of parties. Now, after hearing the testimony set forth above and reviewing the evidence admitting during the trial, the jury reviewed the case against the elements of capital murder and the law of parties and found the defendant guilty of capital murder, and he was charged in the indictment. All right, remember that phrase. Law of parties. Anyway, Gonzalez, he was sentenced to life in prison instead of executed, but bummer, right? Now, the jury returned a general verdict, which did not specify whether it found Gonzalez guilty as a principal or as a party. The jury did not have to render a verdict that Josh was the one who shot Ryan. They didn't have to. Why? This is a great time to ask if you guys know what the law of parties is in Texas. Well, buckle up. It's time to study some law. The Texas law of parties states that a person can be criminally responsible for the actions of another in certain circumstances. Like if, you attempt to carry out a conspiracy to commit one felony, another felony is committed by one or all the conspirators. All conspirators are guilty of the felony actually committed, though, I mean, even if they don't have intent to commit it. And that's not just for murder, that's for any felony. Damn, I mean, don't mess with Texas, you know what I'm saying? Well, remember when they were driving around and Jennifer was freaking out saying, we need to pick up my friend Shauna Cooper? Well, Shauna Cooper was present during the kidnapping and murder and the escapade. And just by being present during the kidnapping, driving Ryan around against her will, kidnapping, the murder, well, guess what? She got arrested and charged with what? Capital murder and kidnapping. Damn, I mean, dude, she was just there. Anyway, as far as researching Jennifer and Shauna's punishment for this, I can only find that Jennifer Sullivan Cooley is still being housed at Murray Prison in Texas. She was sentenced to 40 years in prison. I don't know if she went to trial or pleaded out, but I mean, she was sentenced to 40 years in 2014. So that means she'll be getting out in 2054. But as far as Shauna is concerned, I did a creepy lookup and I creeped on her with one of my paid background search accounts. Yeah, I have those. Shut up. And it looks like she's not in jail. So she must have pled out, probably for the state, but I can't say for sure. So don't quote me. I mean, this is YouTube saying that I'm a worthy source of news is like, what they say about CNN.
You are fake news.
Well, I pulled her criminal background and my mouse wore out. I mean, it's, I mean, we're talking, I mean, damn girl, DWIs, possession of dangerous drugs, possession of controlled substance, disturbances, domestic disturbance, theft, but she got this murder charge later than the others in 2014. So I'm thinking that she probably did make some sort of deal because it did say on there, prosecutor accepts lesser charge - kidnapping. So I can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing because, dude, you just picked me up. I didn't do shit. Hey, I'm rolling on all y'all. So you guys remember, if you guys are going to do murder, don't tell me about it because I'll definitely call the cops and tell on you to save my own ass.
Snitches get stitches.
But anyway, she started her sentence on November 2nd, 2016, and she was sentenced to 8 years, but she got out in 2022, January, so she must have been a model prisoner. Dude, I hope that she gets her shit together, because, I mean, this is a huge chance for her to make her life different and head in a direction that maybe doesn't involve murder and meth. Anyway, one more little bit of info that is actually pretty sad is that Ryan Rice, who was no angel at all, I did a look up on her, and yeah, but no one deserves what she went through. No one. And she was just released from state jail on August 15th, 2013. She'd be viciously and violently assaulted and murdered just 4 months later. That just sucks. As far as Josh, he tried unsuccessfully to appeal. In this case, he said he was too intoxicated to give a decent statement. Dude, you testified. I mean, your memory must be fried because you can't even remember what you explicitly laid out that either high or not high, yeah, you're the same person. So, I mean, how about you just own the fact that you're just mean? I know there's really probably a lot better words to use, but you're just mean. You're a meanie. Anyway. Well, that actually is it for this case. I mean, do you guys think Josh or Jennifer did it? I think Josh did. I don't think Jennifer did it at all. I don't think a woman could do that to another woman. So, anyway, and I think that Shauna, I do think she was just there. But, I mean, that's just me. And when I write these scripts for these cases, and I'm just dead by the time that I get to the end. And it's when I need to say something chipper. And it's hard to do an outro and be my normal dumbass chipper self when we just talked about things so horrific. But I guess something to laugh about is the fact that we're true crimers. We're nuts. I mean, God, we're weird. I mean, I have more gruesome case that's worse than this next. And so there's something to be excited about. I mean, what the hell's wrong with us? Anyway, on that note, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.